What if the greatest enemy isn't deep-rooted fear, but crippling hesitation itself? What if your thoughts, the ones meant to protect you, are secretly the ones holding you hostage? Once you master this, relentless overthinking doesn't just fade, it vanishes, replaced by unstoppable motion. There's a silent killer that's destroying more dreams than failure ever could. It doesn't come with pain or blood. It comes dressed as logic, as preparation, as thinking it through. You call it relentless overthinking. Musashi called it crippling hesitation. And in his world, crippling hesitation meant death. You think you're protecting yourself by thinking, but in reality, you're bleeding time, energy, and confidence through every thought that leads nowhere. Musashi's focused mind was forged in a furnace most modern men can't even imagine. Yet, what he mastered isn't swordsmanship, it's mental execution. He discovered how to move when others freeze, to strike while others think, to act without waiting for certainty. That's what this video is about. Once you master this internal discipline Musashi built in himself, relentless overthinking disappears. Not because you stop thinking, but because your thinking becomes movement. Let's begin. 1. The trap of the focused mind. Let me tell you about Ryo. Not a samurai, not a monk, just another man stuck in the loop. Ryo wakes up early, goes to work, stares at spreadsheets, scrolls through motivational quotes on his breaks. He's got plans, a business idea, a book to write, maybe a YouTube channel. But every time he sits down to start, the storm begins. What if it fails? What if people laugh? What if I'm not ready yet? He calls it planning. Musashi would call it self-deception. In the Book of Five Rings, Musashi wrote, "There is timing in everything." Timing is the essence of strategy. Overthinkers don't understand timing. They're always early or always late, never now. Ryo's problem isn't deep-rooted fear of failure. It's addiction to certainty. He wants the path perfectly lit before he takes a step. But the truth is, the path only appears after you start walking. The focused mind convinces you that by waiting you're preparing, but waiting doesn't prepare you. It weakens you. You lose the sharp edge that only decisive action gives. Every day you hesitate, someone less qualified moves. And that's how relentless overthinking wins. Not by breaking you all at once, but by dulling your blade until you no longer believe you can cut. 2. The focused mind of no focused mind. Musashi had a principle mushin no shin. It means the focused mind without focused mind. A state where thought doesn't delay decisive action. Where thought and decisive action merge into one. That's what kills relentless overthinking. Not trying to silence your thoughts, but moving with them before they turn into crippling hesitation. Think of like this. You're standing in front of two doors. One is marked certainty, the other decisive action. Everyone waits in front of the first door their whole lives, hoping it'll open. Musashi walked straight through the second. He didn't trust certainty. He trusted movement. In battle, you can't calculate every outcome. You can only trust your rhythm, your training, your intuition. Life's the same way. Relentless overthinking happens when you rely on the brain and ignore the body. When you're all logic and no instinct. But here's what Musashi knew. Intuition is intelligence in motion. You build it by doing, not by doubting. When he trained, he didn't study what worked in theory. He moved, observed, adjusted, moved again. He didn't think his way to mastery. He moved his way there, and that's where relentless overthinking dies in the rhythm of decisive motion. 3. The distance shift. Musashi once wrote, "In strategy, it is necessary to treat distant things as if they were close, and to take a distant view of close things." Sounds poetic, but it's a psychological weapon. Here's what it means in modern terms. You overthink because you're too close to your fears and too far from your vision. Your fears feel like they're breathing down your neck, while your goals feel galaxies away. Musashi flipped that. He treated deep-rooted fear like background noise, acknowledged it, but never obeyed it. He brought his vision close enough to feel it in his hands. That's how he entered duels with a calm, focused mind and lethal precision. Rio starts applying this. Every time deep-rooted fear speaks, he visualizes pushing it back like fog drifting away, and he pulls his mission closer, imagining it as something he's already living, not something he hopes to reach. The mental distance shifts, and with that shift, relentless overthinking loses its grip. Because when your goal feels close, your brain stops theorizing and starts preparing to strike. 4. The fire of motion. There's a brutal truth Musashi teaches that modern self-help hides. You don't need more clarity, you need motion. He wrote in the Fire book, you can only fight the way you practice, meaning your thoughts in battle reflect your behavior in life. If you train your focused mind to pause, to hesitate, to analyze endlessly, you'll freeze when it matters most. Rio decides to act. Not tomorrow, not after another research phase. He sets a 30-day rule. 1 goal, 1 mission, 0 switching, no backups, no maybe later. He picks the ground like Musashi did. His own terms, his own focus. The first few days are chaos. The deep-rooted fear doesn't vanish. It screams louder, but he keeps moving anyway. Then something strange happens. The deep-rooted fear doesn't disappear. It becomes silent because deep-rooted fear feeds on inaction. And once you start moving, you starve it to death. Musashi once said, perception is strong and sight weak. In strategy, it is important to see distant things as if they were close. Most people overthink because they confuse sight for vision. They only move when they see results. But Musashi moved because he perceived victory long before it appeared. That's what separates warriors from warriors. Warriors move, warriors wait. 5. The strike of now. Every overthinker is waiting for the perfect moment, the right time to start, the right conditions to act. The timing of the strike is the timing of life itself. The right moment is never coming. There's only now and never. You're either striking or hesitating. There's no in-between. Musashi mastered the art of acting before the perfect conditions arrived. He understood that delay is decay, that crippling hesitation is a death of momentum. And Rio learns that the hard way. He waits to feel ready, but readiness never comes. So one night, exhausted from thinking, he decides to strike. He doesn't know if it'll work. He doesn't need to. He launches his project at midnight. Raw, imperfect, alive. The result's nothing special, but the shift inside him massive. He finally realizes certainty is earned through movement, not waiting. That's when his relentless overthinking disappears. Not because he silenced the thoughts, but because he moved faster than they could keep up. 6. The way of walking alone. When Musashi retreated into the cave of Ryando, he wasn't escaping the world. He was dissecting it. There, in complete solitude, he wrote his final textodo, The Way of Walking Alone. It wasn't about swordsmanship. It was about liberation from noise, from ego, from dependence on the world. One of his precepts reads, do not let yourself be guided by the feeling of lust or love. At first, it sounds cold, but Musashi wasn't warning against emotion. He was warning against attachment. Attachment is the root of relentless overthinking. You obsess because you care too much about how things turn out, what others will think, who will approve. You are guided not by truth, but by emotion, by your craving for validation, approval, belonging. That's why your thoughts spiral, because you've handed over control of your focused mind to external forces. Musashi understood that clarity doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from cutting away everything that doesn't matter. He trained alone, ate alone, walked alone, not out of bitterness, but precision. Because focus dies in the crowd. Noise kills instinct. When you walk alone, the world becomes quiet enough for you to hear your own command. You stop explaining your vision. You embody it. You stop seeking validation. You start seeking mastery. Relentless overthinking thrives in noise, but it cannot breathe in solitude. Once you detach from approval, the focused mind stops begging for permission and starts obeying your will. That's the modern way of the warrior. 7. The modern samurai code. If Musashi lived today, his sword would be your focused mind. His battles will be fought in your indecision, your distractions, your endless what-ifs. But his philosophy hasn't aged a day. Here's a modern code distilled. The distance flip. Push your fears far. Pull your goals close. The motion proof. Decisive action creates clarity. Thinking multiplies doubt. The now strike. Move now or never. The alone path. Silence the world to hear your own command. These aren't just ideas, they're disciplines. Each strike you make against crippling hesitation sharpens your focus. Each moment of silence carves away the noise of weakness. Once you practice these, relentless overthinking doesn't just fade, it becomes irrelevant because you'll be too busy moving, cutting through life with precision while everyone else hesitates. The end of the path. Musashi's power wasn't in his sword. It was in his ability to turn thought into decisive action faster than anyone else. That's what makes a warrior in any age. Speed of execution. You never escape the noise. You never feel completely ready. But when you move through the noise anyway, you become something dangerous. And that's what the world fears most. A man who doesn't hesitate. A man who moves without permission. A man who acts relentless overthinking dies the moment you stop negotiating with deep-rooted fear and start commanding your reality. So pick your ground, sharpen your focused mind, and strike now. Because as Musashi taught, the true warrior acts before the focused mind has time to doubt. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more videos, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.